Start. What do you want to?
It's one safer.
Okay, we're going to start. Ayin Chesam at Bais. It's a little over halfway down, maybe 2/3 down. The first word on the line is Itmar.
Did you ever hear of Remote Mayor? You ever heard of a place called Remote Mayor?
No, that's also new place.
The new place, right? I have a cousin lives there, and I was there at night, and I was in the middle of the night. And I'm just trying, I don't know where it is. Gotta find it.
Okay, Itmar was stated by Amirayim. Good morning. Yeah, there's a
I think.
around 78B. Taida sheshacht al shmeinim chalas. Korban taida. It's the Thanksgiving offering. You're supposed to bring 40 chalas. This fellow brought 80. So Chizkiah Amar Kitra Bar Mitech Shmeinim. Chizkiah says that 40 of them, 40 out of the 80 are sanctified. Rabbi Yochanan Amar like Kitra Bar Mitech Shmeinim. Rabbi Yochanan says nothing. It doesn't work like that. Amar Reb Zera. Reb Zera explains, Hakol Maidim, both Chizkiah and Rabbi Yochanan would agree, if he would have said, let 40 of the 80 be sanctified. So Kidshu, that would have worked. If he would have said, Al Yikadru Arbaim Elim Ken Yikadru Shmeinim, do not have 40 sanctified unless all 80 are sanctified, like you put a stipulation in there, so like Kidshu, that it does not work. Ki Pligi. When do they argue? We're on 78b. Bistama. He doesn't say anything. Mar Savar, one of them holds, which is Chizkiah Lachrayas Kamachaven, that why did he designate 80? Because just to be sure, just to be safe.
What if it was Shegit? What if it was just by mistake? He put 80.
That's what we're talking about. Bistama. It doesn't say anything. Stama, where he doesn't explain what he's doing. Why did he do that? We're thinking, well, maybe he did it because, let's say, 40 get lost or something. Look, we do this all the time. You go to the store, you needed batteries for something. Go to the store, instead of buying the 2 batteries you needed, you bought a package of 8. So why? Just in case, right? You don't know what. Maybe, why should I run to the store tomorrow again? Just in case. So here, he put in 80. Why? I don't know. Maybe some of it's going to fall out, get lost. Okay, now I know there's for sure going to be enough. So if that's the case, so he only intended 40. He has 80 just for achrayas, just in case. Mar Saval Karban Gadol Kamachaven. Rabbi Yochanan holds no. He intended to bring a large karban, and that is not what's part of the. That's what's not part of the karban tail. That's not part of the plan. Rabbi says different. This was Reb Zera. Different explanations for. We know what they hold. The question is, what's the reasoning? Rabbi says no. The Kuli Alma, this word achrayas is confusing here. It's really meant to say the Kuli Alma for a karban gadol kamachav. Everyone wants a large sacrifice. Question is, does the vessel sanctify the sacrifice without the person's intent, exactly specifically for that? In other words, does the vessel work independently of his intent? Chizkiah says, well, we don't care what he wanted. The vessel that he put it in sanctifies what it's supposed to sanctify, which is the 40. The other one says that no, he has to think about what it should sanctify, and so therefore it doesn't work. Rav Papa Amar, this is the third opinion of what the Machleka says. The Kuli Alma, it's nice because we're working down generations here. This is called Revadim, layers. where you actually see each generation is offering a new answer.
You're saying chronologically?
You see the generations here. A lot of Gemaras are like this, but not all of them are like this. Rabbi Soloveitchik used to have this famous speech, how everyone is studying Torah, Rav and Shmuel are studying, and in comes in Rav Huna, and in comes in, and he's like describing it until finally, his father comes in and gives his opinion, and it's like, he works his way down the generation.
He goes to his father, he's saying.
He works his way from the Amiraim, and he was describing like each layer of thing, and then and here
YU.
we are discussing the.
So Rabbi saw a lecture from YU.
Yeah.
His father was a Rav, right? Like in.
His father was the Rosh Hashiva there before him, and then his
I'm
grandfather
talking about before, but the one who learned with the Rebbe in Europe. Who was it? Was his father also a Rav?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Rav Papa says the Kuli Alma Klisharis Mekadshim Shleimi Das. No, everyone holds that the Klisharis works without the person's intent, which means that automatically 40 should be sanctified. It's a little different, because what sanctifies the loaves? The shechita. It's a different sort of the shechita of the sacrifice, because you have an animal sacrifice that's
if you wrote
slaughtered.
loaves and the shechita wasn't done.
We're going to see in a moment. The next Mishnah. Specifically by the Taida. There's other Menachos, but by the Taida it's a meal offering together with the sacrifice. Mar Savar Sakin Mekadeshes Keklisharis. One of them holds the Sakin works, and it's Mekadesh just like a Klisharis, and it sanctifies the 40. That's Chizkiah. It says that the sacrifice is good, the 40 are sanctified.
Is there such a thing as a sucking that cuts the challah? They're connected. Slices them up.
There may be, but it's not a service. It's not part of the. It's not like
in the oven is not mekadesh.
Oh, that was a big machlekes we had before. If the tan is mekadesh or not. Yeah, we'll see this. Mar Savar Sakin given the Leslie Toich in a mekadesh kiklisharis. The Sakin doesn't sanctify it. So how does it become sanctified? Only with his. Only if it's the right amount. Eily midas ish. That's what it means. Without his intent. It means alone. It means will the sakin sanctify it alone without his intent. Ikadamri, others say the opposite. Rav Papa Amidukuli Alma Klisharis Ein Mekadshin Eily midas. Doesn't work without his intent. So how does one of them hold? How does Chizkiah hold that it's sanctified? But we have a machlekes about a knife, because Mar Savar Sakin Alima Miklisharis. One of them says that the sakin works even stronger than a regular vessel that has a receptacle. Even though it has no receptacle, Mikacha, it still sanctifies. So that's why it's such a type of thing that it sanctifies even without the person's intent of exactly how many it should be. It sanctifies the right amount. The sakin is different. Marsaver sakin layalima lameklisharis. The other one says that a knife is only the same as a klisharis, and it doesn't work unless he has the intent of exactly the right amount to sanctify. We'll discuss in the Mishnah some things that we were thinking about. Shachta chas lismana. Let's say the shechita of the carbon taida was done, and while he's shechting it, he thinks that he's going to sprinkle the blood or eat the sacrifice out of its appropriate
pigel,
time.
Right?
This is called pigel. It's very severe. It's karas if he eats it. Or he thinks about offering it out of the temple, or eating it out of Yerushalayim. So,
but this is the coin, no?
This is the coin, yeah. If it helps, if the owner's thought helps, that was a big discussion. But the coin's thought matters. The owners almost don't matter, except that one opinion that we mentioned, because of the saita we discussed. The site, if the owner's thoughts would matter, then the saita could mess up her carbon, and no one would know about it. Yeah, and then okay, kiddush alechem. So those cases are kiddush alechem. The breads become sanctified, even though the sacrifice is invalid, but the breads are sanctified. to bring another sacrifice, but the breads were good. Shachta v'nimtza streifa. Let's say he opens up the inside and he finds that it wasn't a kosher, it wasn't a healthy animal. It would have died very shortly if it wasn't slaughtered. Like Kiddush Alechem. The breads are not sanctified because we realize that the animal wasn't good. Shachta v'nimtzas balas mum. Let's say you shechted and you find out, for some reason they didn't realize that it has a mum, so it's not a good carbon. So, however, in this case, it's a machlekes Rabbi Lezer and Chachamim. We'll see it's a machlekes Rabbi Lezer, maybe in Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Lezer says Kiddush, that's okay. The Chachamim like Kiddush. Chachamim say, no, it's not okay. It doesn't sanctify the breads because it had a mum. It wasn't a valid sacrifice. Shachta shlei lishma. Let's say he has intention for a different sacrifice. The wrong sacrifice. And the same thing would apply to the ram that was brought on the inauguration. Because these are sacrifices that have an animal part and a meal part. The same would apply to the two sheep on Shavuos, Sheshachta and Shalei Lishman. If he had intention for a different sacrifice, like Kiddush Alechem, the bread doesn't become sanctified. So Shalei Lishman doesn't work. Chutz Lizmana, Chutz L'Mkaima does sanctify the bread. And the machlekes was by a balmum. Masnisin Mani. The Gemara asks, who's the author of our Mishnah? Reb Meir. Author of our Mishnah is Reb Meir. This is very satisfying to the Gemara because they have a rule that Stam Mishnah is Reb Meir. This is happy. If it wouldn't be Reb Meir, then the Gemara would have said, is it possible that our Mishnah is not Reb Meir? And then we would try to figure out how it could be Reb Meir. So this goes over well. The Tanya. It was taught in a Bais. Zeh klal. This is the rule. Kol shepisulei koydem shchita. Any time that the animal was invalid before the slaughtering of the animal, there was already puzzle before we started. For example, it was treif. The animal was a treifa. So in such cases, like Kiddush Alechem, the bread doesn't become sanctified. Psulei achar shchita. If the psul comes after the slaughtering, for example, he slaughtered with the wrong thoughts, so the slaughtering was good. So Kiddush Alechem, the bread does become sanctified. I shouldn't have used that example because the Gemara is going to explain that that's
if you're shechting, not the chutzah, you're thinking about shechting another carbon, right? You're not doing it to it. You're doing it to another carbon, right? So you're saying what's the if the
psul comes after shechita, let me use a different example. Not thoughts by the shechita, but thoughts by the zrika or something else. So then it becomes sanctified. The bread becomes sanctified with the shechita,
even though you had the wrong kavanah
at the zrika or whatever, because the shechita sanctifies it. That's right. It's all when. If it became sanctified appropriately, then if it all was good at the time of the sanctification of the bread, which is the shechita, then the bread becomes sanctified. If the psul comes later, then okay, the animal is not good, but the bread was already sanctified. Let's say in the middle, or shachta, it actually puts it all together here. Shachta chutz l'smana v'chutz l'mkaima. If a person shecht and he has the wrong thoughts, chutz l'smana chutz l'mkaima, out of the allotted time to eat it, or out of the allotted time to sprinkle, or out of the allotted place, Kiddush Alechem becomes sanctified. Shachta v'nimtzas treifa. Let's say it's a treifa. Finds after he opens up the animal, like Kiddush Alechem, the bread doesn't become sanctified. Like this fits well with the rule. Now shachta v'nimtzas balas mum. It's a little odd because the balas mum should have been there from before, which would mean that the bread should be sanctified according to everyone. However, Rabbi Lezer Eimer Kiddush, Rabbi Lezer says that it is Kiddush, even though the mum was there before. We're going to see why later. The Gemara is going to explain that it's a type of mum that's not a real mum, that doesn't invalidate it entirely. It was a cut on the eye, and as we'll see. And Rabbi Yeshua says like Kiddush. Rabbi Yeshua says, no, it doesn't sanctify the breads. I get it that it's not a full mum and all of that, but it doesn't sanctify the breads. Divrei Reb Meir. These are the words of Reb Meir, which fits very well with our Mishnah, and that's why the Gemara is satisfied with this. Because our Mishnah said that the machlekes is about a balmum, a blemish. But the wrong thoughts of time and place was the bread becomes sanctified. See, over here Rabbi Yeshua is in place of the Chachamim. The Chachamim in the Mishnah is Rabbi Yeshua in the Bais, which is fine. Amar Rabbi Yehuda says to his friend Rabbi Meir, says, Lei nechelku Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yeshua, al sheshachta v'nimtzis treifa, shalei kiddush. There was no machlaikas about if he slaughtered it and it was a treifa that's like kiddush. He says, I agree with you about that. There's no machlaikas about that. The bread doesn't become sanctified. It was invalid beforehand. V'al chutzlas manish kiddush. And no one argues about if he had the wrong thoughts out of the allotted time, that it does sanctify. V'al balmum shalei kiddush. Wow. And a balmum does not become sanctified. Fits perfectly with the treifa, right? Because it was from beforehand. Balma nechlaku. But we know that there's a machlaikas. What is the machlaikas about? Al chutzlam kaimai. If he has thoughts out of the allotted place. So we're dividing time and place here between pigel and just puzzle. See, if he has the wrong thoughts that he's going to eat it in the wrong time or sprinkle it in the blood in the wrong time, becomes pigel. Now, the thing with pigel is that pigel only works if the sacrifice is kosher. If the sacrifice has other invalidations, so it doesn't become pigel. The only way it could be pigel is if everything else about the sacrifice is kosher. So here we're saying that everything is kosher. Everything is kosher, okay. It's pigel. Everything is kosher other than the pigel. That means the breads become sanctified. However, chutzlam kaimai, it only becomes invalid. It just becomes invalid. Saying, oh, it became invalid, so that's just regular invalid, and the shechita wasn't done properly, so the breads don't become sanctified. Rabbi Lezer Mekiddush. Rabbi Lezer says, nevertheless, it is good, because we'll see what he compares it to. And Rabbi Yeshua Amar like Kiddush. Rabbi Yeshua says, no, it doesn't become sanctified. It's like more strict than pigel. It's interesting. Amar Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer says, Hayil v'chutzlas mani pasal. Since the case of pigel is a case where the sacrifices becomes invalid, it's more than invalid, but it's invalid. V'chutzlam kaimei pasal, and if he has thoughts about eating it or sprinkling the blood out of the allotted place, out of the temple, so it's also pasal. So ma chutzlas mani kiddush af chutzlam kaimei kiddush. It's exactly the same rule. The bread should become sanctified by the pickle. The bread should become sanctified by chutzlam kaimai. Follow? Yeah.
Are you sure Blazer were contemporaries?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah. Students of Rabbi Yechim and Zakkai. The big ones.
This is the same Rabbi Shur that
Rishur ben Chananya.
that Rabbi Gamliel told him to come Yom Kippur.
Yeah. He was a Levi.
This is Rabbi Shur ben Levi? Is that Rabbi Shur ben Levi?
He was a Levi. Rishur ben Chananya, the Gemara says that he served in the... I forget what it says. If he was singing, I think it says he was singing in the temple. He was there at the end, because these were Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai. They carried Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai out on the bed. Remember to meet Vespasian.
Oh yeah.
You know, there's novelists that write books about the Tanakh because we have so much information. You know, there's I don't think other people have information from 2,000 years ago like we
Right.
have, like hundreds of thousands of words that we have. So the novelists can recreate. So they say they'll like describe the conversation that the students were having as they're carrying, because we have stories and we have arguments, and they can put them together. It becomes very creative. Marcus Lehman wrote a book, Akiva, which he does that. There's others that do. So Rabbi Lezer says it's the same thing. If it's any type of the wrong thoughts, the bread becomes sanctified. Amar Rabbi Yeshua says, 1 second. Hoil v'chutzlam kaimei pasal. Chutzlam kaimei, the wrong thoughts, we're dividing up the types of thoughts. Wrong thoughts about the wrong place, that becomes invalid. Balmum pasal. If there's a blemish, it's invalid. Ma balmum like kiddush. Just like a balmum doesn't become sanctified. Av chutzlam kaimei like kiddush. Also, out of the allotted place, it doesn't become sanctified.
Is that like what is it not called?
Well, he's saying that we're just comparing the type of psul. It's just a regular psul. It's not like this severe pigel psul.
Right.
So let's just compare the type of psul. And both of them don't sanctify the bread. And he's not comparing the fact that the time the balmum was puzzled before we started. Amalei Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer says back to him, Anida misiul chutz l'zmanei. I compare chutz l'mkaimai out of the thoughts of bringing it out of the place to chutz l'zmanei, to bringing it out of the right time. V'ata d'misiul balmum. But you compare it to a balmum. Rabbi Eliezer is like putting it all in perspective here. Nir l'mi daima. Let's see who is more similar to. Im daima l'chutz l'zmanei. If it's more similar to out of its time, niduneno mi chutz l'zmanei, then we'll compare it to chutz l'zmanei. Im daima l'balmum, niduneno mi balmum, then we'll compare it to the balmum. Are the breads going to be sanctified or not? The balmum, it's not sanctified. Chutz l'zmanei, it is sanctified. And then we have the chutz l'mkaimai, which is the question. Hischel Rabbi Eliezer Lodin, so Rabbi Eliezer begins to do the comparison. Danim psul machshava, mi psul machshava. Both of them are thoughts, are invalid thoughts. Whether it's thoughts of out of the time, or thoughts of out of the place. Vein danim psul machshava, mi psul aguf. I'm not going to compare an invalidation of the thoughts to an invalidation of a mum. That's an invalidation in the body. That's not an invalidation of the kohen thinking. So Hischel Rabbi Shua then begins his comparison. Danim psul shein by kares and psul shein by kares. I'm going to compare something that doesn't have kares, that type of invalidation, to a which is a mum, to a psul that doesn't have kares, which is chutz l'mkaimai. Ba'al yechia chutz l'zmanei. Don't throw in here. Don't use proof from chutz l'zmanei. So psul sheish by kares, because that has kares. That can't be in the comparison. It's not in the equation here. Va'id, nedinenu mishalei l'shmai. Guess what? What happens by shalei l'shmai, which is also a thought? Someone has thoughts of bringing the carbon taida. He has thoughts of bringing it for another sacrifice, for another shlamim, or not a taida. So shepsul machshava, that's also an invalidation of thought. Ve'ein by kares. There's no kares, and we learned in the Mishnah that the breads do not become sanctified.
How is kares? There's kares by zman, but not.
Yeah, that's pigel.
How does that work?
If
No, how does it say pigel? No, pigel is so severe.
Yeah,
but yet, if you have thoughts about another carbon, it's okay. It's cool.
Yeah. And actually, the carbon is valid. In most cases, the carbon is valid. Just the owner needs to bring another one. Now here, the carbon is valid. Just the breads don't become sanctified. It means the actual animal sacrifice, the things get offered up, and the kohanim would eat it, and all of that. But it wasn't the sacrifice that he took on himself. So we would need to bring another one. B'shasak Rabbi Eliezer. In this instance, B'shasak Rabbi Eliezer means Rabbi Eliezer agrees. He agrees.
Second time. We had the other one, remember, when a student.
Before Menachos?
Yeah, before, when the student, Rabbi told him, you're so happy that
it's Rabbi Yehuda ben Nechemia.
Is that normal to say Vashasa? Why can't he say Vahoida?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's very interesting.
Especially if there were peers. As a teacher, I would understand why he would be quiet. Because he doesn't have to admit to his student that... All right.
Well, in reading it, my understanding was that Rabbi Eliezer started off the conversation. He says, "Look, I'm going to show you. It's so simple. Just compare it to what it's more similar to."
So
and then Rabbi Yeshua responds, and then Rabbi Eliezer is like, "Oh,
got it."
Now the Gemara goes back. It says for Rabbi Meir had this totally different. Rabbi Meir didn't have this discussion about chutz l'mkaimai. He had a discussion about a balmum. Maishna shchita, maisha shachta v'nimtzis treifa. If it becomes a treifa, dahavi psule koydem shchita, because that was invalid beforehand. Maishna shachta v'nimtzis balas mum, delayavi psule koydem shchita. That it wasn't invalid before. Balmum is also, he had a blemish on the body. A treifa is usually a blemish inside that would cause the animal to die. a balmum is usually it's something that's apparent on the outside, and that it wasn't fit to be brought as a sacrifice. So some sort of deformed or something, a defect. The Gemara explains bedukin shaba'ayin ba'ali b'Rabbi Akiva. The type of defect here was the type of defect that if the animal would have been brought with this defect, we wouldn't say remove it from the altar because it was a smaller defect. We would say that the animal was not valid, but it doesn't mean we remove it off the altar. The Amar imalu lo yerdu. Rabbi Akiva holds that if you bring it on the altar, you don't bring it off. Now, Rabbi Shua argued on that. Now, what's Rabbi Eliezer saying here? In Reb Meir's opinion of what the machlekes Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Shua. So, Rabbi Eliezer would hold, like Rabbi Akiva, that if it goes on the altar, you don't take it off. So too, the bread becomes sanctified. Rabbi Shua says, Ki amar Rabbi Akiva mal la yardu bepsula de gufa. I agree with Rabbi Akiva. Or maybe I understand Rabbi Akiva at least, that I don't take it off the altar. But aval k'dushay lechem lai. That doesn't mean that everything else is you say, so why'd you let it go on the altar? I'm not talking about that was the body itself of the animal. I'm not going to take it off the altar to shame it with such a small defect. But to say that everything else is going to go into effect, the breads that came along with it are going to be sanctified.
What does Rabbi Akiva hold if it's a treifa and it's brought up lemafreya? It's you leave it up. If it was
puzzle from before, then you don't. Then it's a problem. Psul from before is a problem.
Do you have to take it down? No, you said if it's in the goof, it's a bomb. Right. And then you, what is it? He says you leave it up. What if it's a treifa?
Right. Okay, so all of those you take down. All of the things that were invalid beforehand. Animals that were humans lived with, or if it was offered for, designated for Avodah Zarah, all these things, it was exchanged for a dog or a treifa. All of those are Bali Mumin, Rabbi Akiva Machsher, the Bali Mumin. And then the Gemara explains what Bali Mumin are. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay, Itmar. There's a statement of Amiroim. Chatas sheshachta chutz lizmana. A sin offering that was slaughtered chutz lizmana with the intention to eat the sacrifice or to sprinkle the blood in the wrong time. Im also leiterid. If it goes up on the altar, you don't take it down.
Just to try to understand the logic, the person bringing the korban goes ahead and says, "Hey, I had bad thoughts. I had this. I had that."
Yeah, it's a machlekes if he thought it or if he actually pronounced it.
It goes machshava, no?
Yeah, it's machlekes what it means machshava. It's Rashi in the Rambam, I think.
Yeah, according to the guy who's the thought, he has to come and volunteer.
He has to, right? He's got to say.
Another whole korban, another whole.
Right. This is the Kuli Amna Rabbi. Everybody holds this. Chata shachta chutz lizman pigol imalasa loisered.
No, 1 second. Im also loisered. Everyone holds that by chutz lizmana. Yeah, chutz l'kaima is a machlekes. It's a machlekes between Rava and Rabba. I'm going to read it the way it's printed, even though all the commentaries change it, just because it confuses me. And you know that the names are supposed to be the opposite. Rava Amar Terid. It's supposed to be Rabba. Let's stick with the printed. Rava says Terid. Chutz l'kaima, you have to take it off the altar. Rabba Amar Loi Terid. Rabba says you can leave it up. It sounds very familiar. Where did we have this before? So Rava Karab Yeshua. Rava holds like Rabbi Yeshua that says that you have to take it off. he compared it to, not to pickle. He compared it to balmum. Right? He compared thoughts of chutzlam kaima to a balmum when it came to a karban mincha, when it came to a karban taida. Rabbi Rabbi Eliezer. But Rabbi goes like Rabbi Eliezer, who compared it to pigel. And pigel, we know, im also leiterid. You follow? And then the Gemara says, "V'hada bei Rabbi legabi de Rava, mida hada bei Rabbi Eliezer legabi de Rabbi Yeshua." And just like Rabbi Eliezer agreed to Rabbi Yeshua at the end, he changed his mind. So therefore, Rava is also going to change his mind and say that you have to take it off the altar. He's going to agree to Rava. You follow? So it's a replay of this. The Ikadamri here is beautiful. The Ikadamri, others say that that's not how this case concluded. Yes, Rabbi Eliezer agreed to Rabbi Yeshua. What was the case there? I had a karban taida. It's an animal sacrifice that comes along with bread. The kohen that was offering the sacrifice had thoughts of eating it or sprinkling the blood out of the temple. So Rabbi Yeshua proved to Rabbi Eliezer that the breads don't become sanctified. And his proof was, well, if you would have had thoughts shalei l'shmai, the breads wouldn't be sanctified. So here also the breads, it's like a balmum, the breads aren't sanctified. So, even though over there Rabbi Eliezer then agrees to Rabbi Yeshua, but Rabba legabi de Rava loy hadabei. But Rabba doesn't agree to Rava over here. Why? Because over here I have a chatas. Am I dealing with breads? No. I'm dealing with the chatas that the thoughts were chutzlam kaima, to sprinkle the blood out of the temple or whatever. And the question is, do I take it off the altar? So Hasam with the kamalei nidanena mishlei l'shmai. Over there, when we're dealing with the breads, we threw in the shalei l'shmai card that says 1 second. What happens if it's shalei l'shmai? It becomes the breads are not sanctified. Aval hacha idainas mishlei l'shmai. If you're just going to say that it's shalei l'shmai, im also leitered, then you're going to leave it on the altar. Over there, we're dealing with breads. It's a whole different story. And what was the main proof of Rabbi Yeshua was that if you would bring the wrong sacrifice, if you would have intention for the wrong sacrifice, the breads will not be sanctified. Over here, if you have intention for the wrong sacrifice, you leave it up on the altar. And here we're discussing, do you leave it on the altar or not? Not if the breads become sanctified. So the comparison is so not complete. And so that's why over here, Rabba would not change his mind. Or Rava, according to our version. Rabba. Okay.